Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Whether you're joining us on live stream or here at Nalanda, we're very glad that you are with us. My name is Jihang Padma. I serve as Associate Professor and Director of the MDiv program in the Wisdom Traditions Department here at Naropa. It's my deep honor to welcome you to the Lenz Lecture. And before I say another word, we want to offer our heartfelt gratitude to the Lenz Foundation. Through their sustained and generous support, this lecture series has brought some of the most vital contemplative voices of our time into conversation with this community. The Foundation's commitment to Buddhism and the challenges of our world is something Naropa holds very close to its heart. So tonight is another expression of that shared vision for which we are grateful. The title of tonight's lecture is We Were Made for These Times, Bodhisattva Courage in a World on Fire. And if these words resonate, if they land somewhere in the body, you're not alone. It's a time of polycrisis when some of these core values, such as democracy and higher education, just need a little bit of extra love. Many of us really ask, in terms of the innermost request of the moment, how can we respond without burning out or shutting down? Tonight's talk doesn't offer us easy answers, but it offers us a dharmic framework that is rooted in Bodhisattva vow for living in transformative times. Grounded in both historical and ultimate dimensions, we're going to anchor ourselves in what is good and worth protecting and become the change we wish to see in the world. So our guest tonight is my Dharma sister, the renowned teacher, Kaira Jewel Lingo. Kaira served as a nun for 15 years in the Plum Village community. She carries forth the tradition of engaged Buddhism with both rigor and compassion. She now teaches internationally in Zen and Vipassana traditions and in mindfulness, with a focus on those working for social change. Kaira is the author of We Were Made for These Times, which gives the evening its title, and co-author of Healing Our Way Home, Black Buddhist Teachings on Ancestors, Joy, and Liberation. Her father walked alongside Martin Luther King Jr., and in many ways, she carries that lineage of nonviolent witness into our own urgent moment. So it's my great joy and privilege to welcome Kaira Jewel Lingo to Naropa University. Please join me in welcoming her.
I just want to thank you so much, Ji-hyung, for that beautiful introduction. And I want to begin with some gratitudes. I attended the anniversary of the march from Selma to Montgomery a few years ago, which my dad had an opportunity to be a part of. And in this gathering for several days, every single person started speaking by expressing thanks to all the other people who were part of, whatever event it was. And sometimes it would go on and on and on, but that was the culture, to just start with, none of us gets to be here by ourselves alone. So deep gratitude to Nathaniel Miles Yepes for nominating me for this series of talks and events at Naropa. To Gabriella, where are you, Gabriella? Yes, okay. Undergrad who's been supporting me while I've been here, and many students that I've had the chance to really connect with already, and staff and faculty. Deep gratitude to everyone behind the scenes. Maybe we can just acknowledge the folks in the booth and behind the camera for thank you so much. We asked them to do something quite difficult right at the last minute, and they have done their best to accommodate, so really appreciate that. I really want to honor my sister who's here as well, Tracy Smith, and some dear friends from Denver, Beth and Bella, and my dear friend Kriti from Boulder. We only can be who we are because of each other, right? So just want to honor that the many lineages that flow into me, into each of us. Maybe we could all take a moment to reflect on the streams that flow into us, and just be in touch with the gratitude that we may connect with as we reflect on, those who made our bodies possible, those who formed our bodies, and the many, many, many generations that made just this body possible. And also, whatever spiritual teachers and ancestors and beings have shaped our lives, we can connect with that stream that flows into us right in this moment. And spiritual can be very broadly interpreted. It could be someone who taught you how to be a good human, a friend, a book, a film, a mountain. The mountains right here in Boulder are some serious spiritual teachers. And then to open to the land ancestors, the teachers, the people that have gone before us on this land that supports us and sustains us. To just really honor that we're here because of so many different people and groups of people that allowed this land to be a place that could support our life. And perhaps just to honor the tradition here at Naropa, I've been learning a culture here where we bow in at the start of an activity. So we can put our hands on our waist and then just offer our deep respect, offer our full presence here to each other. And to all the streams that make us possible. So today I'll invite us into some singing and caring for our bodies. I'll share some reflections on the topic. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a practice. We'll see how the timing goes. And then there'll be space for conversation, dialogue, your questions, your input at the end. So I had a coughing fit as we were doing the tech check all the dry air and the altitude. We'll see how well I can share this song with you, but we can. I'll sing a line, and then if you want to repeat, this song comes from activists who were supporting the community in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. This was a song that they sang. I'm gonna let life move me. I'm gonna let life move me. I'm gonna let life stir me deep. I'm gonna let life stir me deep. I'm gonna let life wake me. I'm gonna let life wake me from an ancient sleep. From an ancient sleep. So let's do those first 4 lines together, because the song is pretty long, so we don't forget that melody. I'm gonna let life move me. I'm gonna let life stir me deep. I'm gonna let life wake me from an ancient sleep. I'm gonna laugh all my laughter. I'm gonna laugh all my laughter. I'm gonna cry all my tears. I'm gonna cry all my tears. I'm gonna love the rain as deeply as the sun when it clears. I'm gonna love the rain as deeply as the sun when it clears. So let's try the last 4 lines all together. I'm gonna laugh all my laughter. I'm gonna cry all my tears. I'm gonna love the rain as deeply as the sun when it clears. Should we try the whole thing? Think we can do it? I'm gonna let life move me. I'm gonna let life stir me deep. I'm gonna let life wake me from an ancient sleep. I'm gonna laugh all my laughter. I'm gonna cry all my tears. I'm gonna love the rain as deeply as the sun when it clears. And there's a bridge. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. One more time. Do 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 do. I'm gonna let life move me. I'm gonna let life stir me deep. I'm gonna let life wake me from an ancient sleep. I'm gonna laugh all my laughter. I'm gonna cry all my tears. I'm gonna love the rain as deeply as the sun when it clears. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Thank you. So this is part of the talk. I hope you know this is singing together is how we get through this moment, is how we live in a world on fire. It's how we regulate our own nervous systems. It's how we co-regulate with each other. It's how we gather up courage. So I invite people into song as a spiritual practice. And then just to welcome our bodies into this space, just, noticing how formal this arrangement is. Let's mess with this. Let's shake out an arm without hitting someone next to you. Let's shake out another arm and shake out a leg, shake out another leg. And you could just get on your feet and shake out what you were just sitting on. Shake out your whole body, shake out your voice, shake your face around. And before you sit down, let's take a deep breath and we'll let it out with a sigh. If that felt good, do it again. Okay, if you want to do any other movements, you can do that. So just another practice that I've come to really appreciate, that tones the vagus nerve, this longest nerve in the body that touches all the many organs. When that nerve is toned, cared for, we can handle difficulties better. We can work with them and bounce back and kind of regain our center. So we start with the ears. We're just going to massage the outer ear, just rolling it between your fingers, coming all the way down to the earlobe. And we'll do that 3 times. So just taking should feel good, just that outer edge of your ear, all the way down to the earlobe. One more time. Because we first listen to know if we're safe. So this vagus nerve is concerned about, are we okay? Okay, and then if you have glasses, you can take them off. And then we're just going to put the fleshy part of our palms around the bones of our eyes. And just let our face be held by our palms. So you can close your eyes. And breathe in and breathe out here a few times. We do so much with our eyes, it's nice to give them a little break. Because after we listen for safety, we look. We want to check with our eyes that we're safe. And then we cup our face in our palms. So hold your face like you're someone who really cares about you, giving you a lot of kindness and friendship. Just a sweet moment of tenderness for yourself. And then bring your palms over your heart center. Just feel the contact between your hands and your heart. And if it feels okay for you to say to yourself inwardly, I am safe. I am safe. Research has shown that saying that to ourselves in this position directly affects the amygdala, this center for fight, flight, and freeze in our brain. Feel your breathing. Feel the support. And then we'll just slide our hands down to a point about an inch below our belly button. This hara in the Japanese phrasing, or the dantian in the Tai Chi, Chinese lineage, this energy center towards the base of our body. So just feeling the support, feeling the breath in this part of the body. Being present with yourself, just as you are. And then the final piece of this sequence is just to rest our hands on our thighs, kind of like at the end of a yoga class where we do shavasana. So it's more like just receiving, noticing what this sequence created for you, if anything. Just feeling what's here. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed. And if there are a couple people who might want to share what you noticed doing this sequence, if you noticed something, raise your hand and I'll just repeat back to the group what you said in just a word or phrase. Is there anything that you notice from this sequence? Yes. Feel more grounded. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes. Soft. Yeah. Thank you. Slow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I felt the de-stressing, the pressure coming down. And I saw you do this movement too. Thank you. Yeah. Did you all notice the direction of the movements? Right? Because when we get upset, just in that word, upset, this is what's happening energetically, right? So when we help our vagus nerve, when we help our body, we're bringing our attention down and inward. So if this is something you find helpful, feel free to use it. When I learned it, it was taught to do it 3 times in a row. So you can try it before you meditate if you want to help, gather yourself, or just if you're in a moment of stress or a fear, you could try it. I teach it in a lot of places, and I I hear different stories of how it helps people. So one parent shared that their child was in middle school, was about to start middle school, and is, gender expansive, and they were really stressed out for weeks before starting middle school. And the parent taught the child this sequence, and it helped them to sleep. And they were able to move into that transition more calmly. So, okay. So, thank you for being here. It's good to be together. It's good to reflect on this topic together. When our world is pulling us in so many different directions, and have you noticed the sense of things speeding up? Has that been your experience? Yes? Yeah. Like sort of and fragmentation and polarization and fear and uncertainty and reactivity, right? So just to gather and to reflect on how do we live in a world that's in this state of imbalance. That's already an act of courage, an important act. I think my mic is slipping. Are you all hearing okay? Is it still good? Okay. So, my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who is there teaching, there's a picture of him teaching at a retreat. He has said something I find very helpful. This, my dear, is the greatest challenge to being alive, to witness injustice in the world and not allow it to consume our light. And I think many of us are living in this challenge right now, right? Where democracy is under attack, our institutions, higher education, we may be carrying grief about climate disruption, war, political violence, deepening inequality. We've never had this level of wealth inequality in human history. We have never ever seen this level of extreme wealth and wealth inequality. Communities are being targeted. Institutions being dismantled, being strained. And for many, this moment is unprecedented, right? For others who have lived under oppression and marginalization, it's painfully familiar. But it's understandable to feel helpless, to feel scared at the immensity and speed of what's unfolding. I feel scared too. And part of the intention behind this show of authoritarian power is to intimidate us, to make us feel isolated and powerless. And, this oft quoted phrase from Timothy Snyder, that authoritarian regimes work by convincing us to obey in advance. That it's just going to be too dangerous, too difficult. So just keep your head down and be quiet. Right? Resistance is futile. So this raises really important questions for us as as practitioners or just as humans who care. How might we apply our Dharma practice or our ethical integrity to respond skillfully in times of upheaval and uncertainty? How can we claim our own power in this moment? Not obey in advance. And really take meaningful action with each other, right? Together. And when we're knocked over by the intensity of the storm, what wisdom helps us to regain our ground? So, I think we can start by honoring that fear at a time like this is natural. We don't need to judge or shame ourselves for being afraid. Our nervous systems are exquisitely sensitive and deeply intelligent. When we sense any kind of danger, our body mobilizes to protect us. And the part of our brain that governs fight, flight, and freeze, or fawn, this being very accommodating, that is very intelligent in moments of immediate threat. You know, we have to give it up for our nervous systems that have kept the human species alive for so many hundred thousands of years. But chronically, that kind of being on all the time, sensing this low level of constant threat, that makes us sick. Sick in our bodies, sick in our minds. When we're constantly activated, our perspective narrows. We can't see the full picture of things. It's like we're carrying this heavy backpack all the time, right? When our nervous system is subtly just always activated. We lose access to, this broader perspective that allows for wise action. And we become reactive rather than responsive. And I'm sure you hear it just like I do. Many people share with me that they wake up already tense. Anybody feel like that? Like bolting out of like, oh my gosh, there's this, there's that. Oh, already carrying tension. Before the day has even begun, our minds are scanning for what's gone wrong, right? Any headline basically provokes anxiety, right? We may worry about our loved ones. We may fear speaking openly about what we believe. It has real consequences. More and more now, right? We see this. So the question for us is not how to eliminate fear, but how to meet fear. How to open to fear in a way that allows for courage, in a way that allows for clarity to also arise. So mindfulness, awareness, it helps us to bring the prefrontal cortex back online, right? When we get flooded with the adrenaline and the fear response that our reptilian brain releases, we lose access to the prefrontal cortex. But when we come back to our breath, come back to our body, notice what's happening in the present moment. We have access to our executive function, what they call, this ability to just track what's really happening, to not be flooded. So that interrupts this spiral of reactivity. Right? We gather ourselves. Right? We remember we're more than this surge of alarm that's coming through us. Because the truth is, the headlines are not going to stop horrifying us. I don't think I'm being pessimistic when I say it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. I feel like we're at a crest here. So we can take that reality in and let it cut us up inside and have it spill back out in ways that create more harm. Or we can make a choice and notice, ooh, this is really tough. There is real suffering happening right here. And how can I be with it? How can I care for it so that I'm not the victim of this, collective forgetfulness, right? We couldn't come to this point without us collectively having really lost it, right? Is what's happening what any of us wants? We keep creating what we don't want, right? Because we're not receiving the feedback loops. The messages are coming, but there's a cut, there's a break. So that's when I say we've lost it. It's like we're not, collectively, we don't have a way to really know what's happening. And each of us is part of the collective, right? So what we do, each of us, really matters. The collective influences us as individuals, but as individuals, we also influence the collective. So how do we stay present to violence, to cynicism, to terror and corruption, without losing our own humanity? How do we not exile ourselves from our own belonging? It is up to us. So courage in the Buddhist understanding is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to remain present with fear and to continue to act in alignment with our deepest values. There was a time in my own life where I had a very intimate relationship with fear. It was in this moment of transition from being a nun for 15 years to moving out of that path. I was considering disrobing. Oh, okay. Is that better? Okay. I was considering disrobing, and I didn't know who I would be if I left the monastery. I didn't know how I would find my way and what my life would be like and what kind of meaning or purpose would be there for me on the other side of that. And so my first instinct was to tighten and try to find some kind of certainty, to try to figure out what's the right thing to do. What is this? What's the blueprint, right? What are the 50 steps that are going to show me what my life is going to be like. And that wasn't happening. I wasn't seeing that at all. And it was sort of the first time in my life that I really had no clue. Up until then, I always could at least see, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, this is who I am, this is my role. And here it was like, I have no idea. It was this really existential terror of like, I don't even know if I'm going to make it through this transition. And of course, I wanted to get out of that quickly. But I realized as I just soaked in that, I couldn't get out of it. I had to just let that process teach me. And I began to realize it was okay not to know. It was okay to just be with this insecurity of, I don't know who I am. And to actually even rest back into the unknown rather than tense against it and fight it. But that, I can just not know and not fight the not knowing. And that really became a teacher for me. Anytime we sit with a fear, especially a deep fear, if we really sit with it and let it school us and teach us, it delivers us into a place of something beyond fear. Right? That's what I touched. I had an apprenticeship with fear. And a different kind of strength became available. Right? This ability to walk with the fear, to walk with the not knowing, to stop bracing against the uncertainty. And eventually, basically, I realized I just need to know this step. I don't need to know the 50 steps. If I can just know what to do right in this moment, that's all. Right? Because what is the future made of but the present moment? So if we can just be with what's right here, the rest will take care of itself. And that didn't happen because I was forcing anything, because I was trying to make something happen. Right? So when we are afraid, what would it mean to soften into that experience rather than close down? To let ourselves be guided, to allow things to move through us rather than bracing against them. Because when we stop tightening against uncertainty, something larger can start to support us. When we're bracing, we're thinking we're this small little self, right? When we open up and just say, gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but it's okay. When we open in that way, we open doorways, we open pathways for a deeper kind of support to show up for us. And that largeness allows us to also receive courage, receive clarity. Because we're so much more than what we think we are, right? And when we begin to trust that, we're touching something beyond our usual way of seeing. in the Buddhist tradition, we speak of two dimensions of reality, the historical dimension and the ultimate dimension. So when the intensity of our times screams at us, and we get caught in this constant churn of the news cycle, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed, like we're drowning in what's coming at us from all these different directions. At those times, it's really important that we remember something simple and very profound. This isn't all there is. This is the historical dimension. But that's the dimension we mostly rely on. It's important. It has its place. You could think of the historical and the ultimate as two sides of the same coin. So we're not talking about getting out of the historical dimension, right? But it's the world of events with timelines before and after, birth and death, here and there. It's also the place where we see injustice clearly and we respond to injustice, and where we really need to understand the roots of our suffering, right? This world that isn't the world that we want, right? I was listening to this wonderful singer, Pink Beard, a black country singer who has a song, Ice on the Road. And it's saying, there's no snow in Alabama, but there's ice on the road. And his refrain is anything great yet? Is anything great yet? That has just been circling in my mind, that lyric, right? So, but to understand this world, right, that we've created in the historical dimension, we need to understand racism, patriarchy, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, all of these things, these are real things in the historical dimension. They are things we need to tend to. All the ways we other each other, all the ways oppression happens. So we can't bypass this dimension. But at the same time, there is the ultimate dimension. This deeper ground of being that's not bound by these categories, these ways that we have of boxing ourselves and others into categories. There is this realm that's beyond birth, beyond death, beyond coming, beyond going. And a traditional image for this is that of waves and water. So the historical dimension is the dimension of waves that appear and they disappear, and they are high and they're low, and they're fast and they're slow. But none of those things applies to water, right? But the wave is also water. A wave can be a wave and be water at the same time, right? So we can be fully in the historical dimension and at the same time touch the ultimate dimension. Right? Little water for us. Right? We're not only the waves, we're also the water. So when we access the ultimate dimension, it's not an escape from the historical dimension. It's what allows us to engage in the historical dimension without despair, without being overwhelmed. So this Oscar-winning film, Sinners, has some of you seen it? Yeah. It includes some moments that really beautifully capture how the historical and ultimate dimensions coexist and inform each other and are layered and intertwined. Past, present, and future all in the same moment. And also how music and ritual can help us move from the historical into the ultimate, right? And how we can heal ourselves in the historical dimension by connecting with the ultimate. And I'm hoping we can see a brief clip of this, but this was one of the technical issues we had before the talk, so we may not get to, but before we try to watch the clip, I do just want to honor this film and the artistry behind it. Directed by Ryan Coogler, a young Black director, was one of the most celebrated films of the year, receiving a historic 16 Oscar nominations and then 4 Oscar awards. And it was the first time a woman was honored as for best cinematography. So it broke many records. So if we get to watch this clip, just see what you notice on the surface and also what's moving underneath. So praying to the ancestors that we may get to show you this clip. Thank you to our amazing people who made this clip work. Could you feel that? The historical and the ultimate, right? So beautiful. And it points to something we can actually do, this visual, right, of the worlds coming together. We can call on our ancestors who exist in the ultimate dimension. We have access to that, right? Whether they're from our family line, our spiritual traditions, our land, ancestors, they're all a part of us. Their strength is available to us. We're not alone. That's part of the courage that we can cultivate is accessing this other dimension. It's always available to us, right? Just if you think of that coin, you don't have the historical without the ultimate. You don't have the ultimate without the historical. They are always existing together, right? So another way to understand the ultimate is as the unseen, right? We know a lot of things exist even though we can't see them, right? They're not visible, but they're shaping our reality. My friend Abby Reyes wrote a book, and she has a beautiful story about this, the way the unseen works. In her book, Truth Demands, a memoir of murder, oil wars, and the rise of climate justice. She worked with the Uwa indigenous tribe, the indigenous people in Colombia, who in the 1990s, they were doing everything they knew on the historical dimension to keep Occidental oil from drilling on their sacred lands. Along with farmers and peasants sympathetic to their cause, they blocked roads and set up resistance encampments to prevent Occidental from building rigging infrastructure on their land. When their encampments were shut down, they resisted through the courts and the legal system. They went all the way back and found Spanish documents from the King of Spain saying this was their rightful land. An international resistance movement was ignited to raise awareness. They tried all these means of nonviolent direct action, and still Occidental, with the US government's support, won the fight, and they were given permission to drill. At that point, the Uwa convened their elders, who in sacred ritual prayed and sang to call upon the earth for support, asking the oil to hide. After this, the company broke 3 diamond drill bits in a row, and they were not able to extract any oil from that site. The oil moved. So however we understand that, it points to something important, right? Human strategy isn't the only form of power. Sometimes prayer, ritual, like we saw in this beautiful clip, ceremony, can be the most important place that we have power. So in the heat of the historical dimension, when everything feels urgent and overwhelming, can we touch back into the coolness of the ultimate dimension? This resting back in something bigger, something unseen that is working on our behalf, is working to support us in mysterious ways. Include it, call on it, let it inform us. This is from a poem of Thich Nhat Hanh. He writes, "Dear ones, the work of rebuilding may take thousands of lifetimes, but it has also already been completed just that long ago." Right? So remembering this helps us act without despair. And when we begin to live from that deeper water, not just the waves, we're stepping into what the Buddhist tradition calls the Bodhisattva path, right? So we're talking about Bodhisattva courage here. So the Bodhisattva is not a distant saint or an abstract ideal, not someone floating above history. It's a way of being available to the world. Bodhi means awakening in Sanskrit and Pali. Sattva means being. So it's a being that's on the way to awakening, that's living in a way to awaken themselves and to help all beings awaken. It's all of us. I hope we all can claim that as our identity. We're all bodhisattvas here. It's a human being who refuses to turn away from suffering. Someone who commits to cultivating awakening for ourselves, for the benefit of the whole. And this is really an archetype that can guide us in a time of upheaval. So sometimes the bodhisattva is depicted in this posture. This is Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of great compassion. One leg on the ground, one leg up. So a beautiful, helpful image that reminds us that our practice isn't about withdrawing from the world, nor is it about losing ourselves in activity. There's this balance of ease, right? And being ready to enter the fray. So we need both this contemplative depth and courageous engagement. So it's about learning to stand in stillness while also being ready to respond. So the vow of the bodhisattva is radical. It asks that we keep our hearts open even in times of injustice. It asks us to act without hatred, to stay connected to our own goodness, even when others behave in ways that are harmful or frightening. Right? I remember when I was transmitted the full vows of a monastic, of a bhikshuni, a nun. We learned a lot of what was going to happen in the ceremony, but this part was a surprise. We didn't know this was coming, but we were asked to take four great vows. And it was all about, if someone insults me, I will not insult them in return. If someone beats me, I will not beat them in return. And, all in that vein of like, whatever someone does to you, you don't give it back to them. It was like a total, nonviolence vow. No matter what the world throws at you, you keep your heart of compassion. And I burst into tears when those were read in the ceremony, because I was like, whoa. What a way to orient ourselves to living, right? This is my center, no matter what. So a wonderful practice that we can engage with in these times that call for this ability to be at ease and also really active, right? This is another just beautiful bodhisattva image of just this royal ease, right? We can have that as we are ready to be called upon. We can have ease within the action, right? That T.S. Eliot poem about stillness, moving still, right? That we can have stillness even in our movement. So a wonderful practice in these times is to identify an ancestor who you admire, who has lived in a noble and courageous way, and connect with them. Like, make that a practice to really connect with someone. And as we said, ancestors are not just those from our genetic lineage, but any human or more than human being could be an ancestor. Anyone who inspires you in any way. We have to remember, as horrible as these times are, human beings have gone through a lot of terrible things. And we have that as our heritage, just by virtue of being humans. All of that creativity and resilience and strength and love, that's our human birthright. So who is it that you might lean on right now? Learn about their life, reflect on them often, bring their wisdom into your daily life. Maintain a dialogue with them in the midst of challenges. What would you do in a situation like this? How would they approach the complexity of this situation? Listen for what are they wanting to share with you? Someone who stood in the face of violence and wasn't diminished by it. Someone who reminded others of their humanity in moments of deep dehumanization, right? My partner Adam and I watched a film just this past week about a Catholic priest I think it was Maximilian Kolbe, who was in a Polish priest was in a concentration in Auschwitz in World War II, and a prisoner escaped, and so the Nazis had this rule that if someone escaped, they would take 10 people into a cell and starve them to death in punishment. So they were pulling people into that group of 10, and the last one was saying, please don't take me, I have a wife and children. And so Maximilian Kolbe said, take me, I'm a Catholic priest, don't take him. And so the film is about what happens in this cell and how this priest doesn't lose his humanity as they're starved to death, how he reminds the others of their humanity when they start to forget. And he just doesn't die. No food, no water, and it's like 4 days basically. But the accounts, people survived that and lived to tell what happened. He lived for 14 days. What was that? He's an ancestor I'm calling on. Someone who, in the most difficult situation, lived from love and transformed the people around him through love. We need to bathe in these stories, right? In this time, they nourish our courage. So, part of the Bodhisattva path, right, is also to be fierce, to speak out when things need to be addressed. So how do we do that without becoming hardened, without being polarized? On the spiritual path, we can sometimes hear that being political is not spiritual, that we should remain neutral. Anybody heard that? Yeah. But neutrality in the face of harm can be a form of abandonment, right? We can sometimes try to escape the historical and go into the ultimate. But the only way into the ultimate is through the historical. So we can't abandon the injustice that we see. So we can practice instead what some teachers call sacred criticism. Richard Rohr offers this term, a Franciscan friar. We can raise our voices with love and say this is wrong, and at the same time keep our arms open for relationship. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. modeled this beautifully in his letter from a Birmingham jail. He wrote to the fellow clergy who were criticizing the civil rights movement. He addressed them as brothers. He spoke firmly and clearly about the injustice, and he did it with deep care. His words were invitational, but also corrective, and some of those clergy were swayed by that letter. This is fierce compassion. We can say no without closing down, without othering whoever it is that we're saying no to. Representative John Lewis, who was part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and then a congressman, he spoke about his life's purpose as getting in the way. That's what I'm here to do, get in the way. Get in the way of violence, of complacency, of cynicism. Not out of hatred, but out of love. My dad has on his Google Calendar, every day it says, get in the way, get in the way, get in the way, get in the way. So spiritual practice doesn't mean withdrawing from the world, the real world of politics, of the news. It means bringing wisdom into the world. Being in this constant dialogue between the ultimate and the historical. Sometimes that wisdom is very creative. It can look like community members standing outside of detention centers through the night, holding up signs of support. It can look like peaceful disruption, banging pots and pans around hotels that host ICE agents. It can look like refusing cooperation with harmful systems. All the thousands of people that bought salt at Target and then returned it to shut Target down, this boycott. Yeah. It can look like courageous dialogue with people whose views frighten us. We can say no to hate without saying no to a person's humanity. One of the things Thich Nhat Hanh would invite us to do is to write love letters to people we struggle with, people who have power. So earlier this year, I wrote a love letter to an ICE agent. And I was really working from this. One of the motivations was how do you see what's not yet there in another person, but could be, right? And I was reflecting on something Loretta Ross said. She's a professor at Smith College. She worked with Reverend C.T. Vivian, who was also a civil rights icon, one of the key leaders of the civil rights movement. He was mentoring her to work with white supremacists. And he said to her, look, if you're going to ask people to give up their hate, you need to be there for them when they do. So how do we prepare ourselves to have conversations, to be in spaces with people who are full of hate? Right? How do we disarm that hate? Sometimes that's possible, not talking about being naive and, taking unnecessary risks, right? But there are moments where conversion is possible. If we have our grounding, if we're rooted in a group of people, if we're rooted in something that really is nourishing us from this unseen realm, we don't know what's possible. But some part of us can maintain this invitational presence to say, if you're ready to give this up, I'll work with you, right? We know humans, the nature of humans is we change. It's like the nature of all of life, right? How might we ready ourselves to say, I'll be here for you on the other side? I'm saying no to your hate, but not to your personhood. This beloved community that Dr. King, that Thich Nhat Hanh, so many teachers have talked about, it welcomes everyone. Right? It's a place where enemies can become friends. It may not happen on our timeline. It certainly won't happen violently. But it can happen through firmness, through creativity. All the creative strategies that people are using right now. walking kids to school so that their parents don't get picked up and detained. Blocking ICE vehicles from leaving their garages in the morning. Fierce compassion in action. It's saying, I'm going to keep you from causing harm, but without dehumanizing. So it's this bigger perspective, right? It is somehow, there's a line in one of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing that Thich Nhat Hanh created during the war in Vietnam that says, I will take a stand against injustice and oppression without taking sides in a partisan conflict. Right? I will speak out, but I won't close the door on what's possible for transformation, right? So in facilitation work, right, when we work with groups, we talk about caring for the whole group. Conflict naturally pulls us towards sides, right? You see someone saying something, oh, why are they saying that? It's hurting this person. We begin to divide the world in allies and opponents. But then who's tending to the wider field of relationship if we take sides? Who's holding this larger space of belonging, this possibility? Who's ensuring that even those who are struggling and perhaps causing real suffering because of their own suffering are not pushed outside of the circle of concern? So caring for the whole doesn't mean we avoid difficult conversations. It doesn't mean tolerating harm. It means engaging with what's difficult with compassion, with skills that we train in so that we can hold the complexity and say, I hear you, and can you hear, this other perspective? Responding in ways that always keep the possibility for healing. So it requires, to do that, to care for the whole, we have to regulate our nervous systems. Remember our own goodness. Remember the goodness of the others. It's delicate work. It requires inner training, right? A discipline. We have a tradition in the Plum Village lineage that if we're going to give constructive feedback to someone, we try to say at least two positive things for every one thing we are not happy about. But in fact, we need to do even more, because our brain's negativity bias, we pay attention to negative input at a rate of 10 to 1 to positive input. So we actually need to say 10 things before we say the one thing, according to neuroscience. But we can hold the space for dialogue in really difficult exchanges. A friend of mine was a lobbyist on Capitol Hill for many years, a lawyer, and she would sit across from someone who had very different views from her, and her practice was to soften, to breathe, to create space rather than constrict. And she said that really would change the direction of the conversation. many more things would become possible because of that attitude. So I think I'm coming to a close here. I want to make sure that we have some time for you all to share. But I'll just close with offering that part of this bodhisattva path, part of this walking with one foot in the historical dimension, one foot in the ultimate, is to also really let ourselves create space for imagining what we do want, right? To really let ourselves feel what would a world look like in 10, 20, 50, 100 years if more and more of us were living from this place? What is the world that we want to see? What does it look like concretely? What are the features to really let ourselves have that in our mind's eye, in our heart space, right? Because if we can't imagine it, we can't create it, right? So what does it mean to really lean into this this other world, that the seeds of which are right here in this time? It depends on what gets watered, right? Just like when a caterpillar dissolves into a soup to become a butterfly in a chrysalis. How does it know to become a butterfly? Because it really completely stops being a caterpillar. It's said that there are imaginal cells inside the caterpillar that know exactly what to do to create the butterfly. So maybe our society is starting to dissolve into a soup. And it's scary. But maybe the imaginal cells are right here. So how do we let ourselves nourish them and think about them and visualize them, right? I'll just finish with a few slides that I'm a faculty on a Buddhist eco-chaplaincy training. And we did this exercise. It was on Zoom. We got people into groups. We said, think about the world that you want. We did a meditation. We said, go find 4 pictures that show the kind of world that you want in 50 years, in 100 years, whatever. And then we put them into groups, and the whiteboard on Zoom, they organized their pictures into collages as a group of 4. So I'm going to show you a few of their collages of the world that we do want. These are lovely pictures too. I didn't have time to share about the walk for peace. So this is one. So just let these images in and feel what arises as you take it in. I have to read you this in case you can't see it. When we are dreaming alone, it's only a dream. When we are dreaming with others, it's the beginning of reality. Another sign says it's a billboard on a sports arena. It says Earth wins. Some of the text says how to speak whale. It's the last one. So we're all in the same boat. We're not going to get through this time with judgment, separation, othering, but through love, through wise action. The seed of awakening is present in each one of us. When we nurture that seed, we become part of the healing of our world. We were not born for easy times. We were born for meaningful times. We were made for these times. So may we support one another. May we act with courage. May we become ancestors future generations will call upon with gratitude. Thank you. And we started with a song, and we're going to end with a song. Leah has a beautiful singing voice and is going to sing a song which is a poem of Thich Nhat Hanh's. So, thank you, Leah.
Now I don't remember the names of the artist, but the song is "Please Call Me by My True Names." If you know it, please sing with me. My joy is like a spring so warm, it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast that it fills the four oceans. My joy is like a spring so warm, it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast that it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so that I may wake up and the doors of my heart will be left open. And the doors of my heart will be left open.
Thank you so much. So space is open. We have some time, about 20 minutes till 9. So we have a mic, and we also may have some questions from those on Zoom. Oh, and here we get to see everyone on Zoom. Hello, hello. I see the Zoom screen. We're happy you're there. If you want to come on camera and wave at us for a moment, we'd love to see you. Everyone's waving at you. Got a room full of people here waving at you. Thank you for being with us. So, reflections, question? Yes, we have one here. And if we can all just hold the mic like it's an ice cream cone, that'll make sure that those on Zoom hear us.
I came in and I was pretty tired. And you sat on stage and I felt this burst of energy in my chest and I started tingling. And I heard another lecture the other night about these hard times, but it was from an intellectual point of view for me on Buddhist. I really appreciated the feeling that you put out, and the words complemented that, but the feeling was palpable for me. And it reminded me, I grew up in a family where there was no arguing, and it probably a little suppressed, but then I got into a job where there was a man who was really angry, and I needed to learn how to be angry. So I went to therapy to learn how to express my anger. And everybody else was better at it, but I got it. But it was effortful. And you made me realize that it's really possible to intentionally come from the heart with words and actions. And I'm involved in film a little bit. When I saw the film, it also made me think that what I don't like about films is they make us act out. We identify with characters doing things, anger very often. And that's how I grew up. Films taught me. So I had to learn to be angry. But I really very much appreciated your offering. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions in the room or maybe on Zoom? Comments?
Hi, Kaira. It's always so good to see you.
You too.
I wonder if you have any reflections on the Buddhist teachings of groundlessness in terms of not knowing what will yet emerge, or if that ever informs you or inspires you to, as you said earlier, take the next step onto uncertain ground. Do you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing in that word. Feels like an important word.
Aimlessness and signlessness are there too.
Yeah. So, reflections on groundlessness. People have talked about really like powerful spiritual openings as being like falling, the sense of falling, which on the surface is not what we want to be doing, because then what? But the description of it is that you just keep falling and falling and falling. There isn't a ground that you hit. So this meditation on groundlessness, it's kind of messes with our way of orienting in the historical dimension, right? What does it mean to not have ground? But there is this beautiful teaching of the 3 doors of liberation, which you're speaking to. Emptiness, which is emptiness, signlessness, and wishlessness or aimlessness. But emptiness is this, not having, we're empty of a separate self. Everything is empty. This flower is empty of a separate self. It only exists because of all the other things that make up a flower. Same with us. So that's emptiness. Signlessness is where we learn, we get free by not getting caught in signs of what things are, right? That's the ultimate dimension, right? When we're not caught in, you are this shape, this, in this box, in this way. No, you're much more than that. And if we don't get caught in that sign, we have so much more freedom. Like the sign to the bathroom is not the bathroom, right? But that's how we live, thinking the signs are the thing itself. So that's why signlessness is a door to liberation. And then the last one, aimlessness, wishlessness, which is another way to talk about groundlessness, where we are not saying our happiness, our meaning, our security is out there. I have to go get something. I have to be something else. I have to do something else in order to be okay. Aimlessness, wishlessness is freedom, because it says, no, I have everything I need right now. It's totally anti-capitalist. Capitalism would not survive if we all practiced aimlessness. It would have no ground. But that's a kind of groundlessness, right? This not searching for something, not striving for something. So we could think of groundlessness as the ultimate relaxation, the ultimate ease of letting go, of surrender, of letting life be the curriculum, not getting out in front, trying to make it happen. Yeah. Thank you. Question here? Oh.
I had in my notes from your talk a note under your comments on the Bodhisattva, in the world but not of it, ? And I'm just thinking about even the posture, one leg up, one leg down. I'm just curious if you can talk about, I don't even know where that phrase comes from. I've just been hearing it a lot, in the world but not of it, and how that relates to the Bodhisattva path.
Yeah. There's a beautiful phrase that echoes that in Buddhism. It's from the 8 realizations of the great beings. It says we live in the world with our hearts undisturbed by the world. Yeah. Well, it's remembering that the historical dimension is not the only dimension. That the ultimate is just as real, maybe more real, and that it's ever present. And so, it's a kind of fundamental trust, right? And we were having this beautiful discussion last night with this Naropa MDiv students about how whatever is happening is lawful. The causes and conditions have come together for this world to be the way it is now. And yes, we want a different world, but it shouldn't be any way else because of all the things that happened to make it this way. Right? So that kind of perspective, it's not about, again, retreating or just, condoning, but it's about, using our energy wisely to say, this is how it is. What can I do? Saying it shouldn't be this way isn't going to help. I mean, that our real energy to change things comes from accepting things the way they are. When we really accept, because we have to actually see the way things are clearly to be able to do something helpful. And we can't see it clearly if we don't accept it. Right? So, in the world, but not of it, is that ability to honor what is, while we still have this imagination for what could be. But we're not losing our energy, we're not leaking energy by fighting what is, by being at war with what is. We're holding this space for how it could be very different, but somehow at peace. It's strange to talk about it that way, right? But somehow at peace with, there's a stillness inside that says, it couldn't be any other way than it is. That's impossible. Life just doesn't work that way. And when we have that kind of peace, we free up our energy to now see, okay, what is mine to offer? Where can I give? How can I support? How can I love? Do you see how we imprison ourselves if we're not doing anything less than that, than just opening to the world the way it is? So that's part of this. And this phrase, right? I shared it yesterday. May I see the world with quiet eyes, right? It's not, may I not see the world. No, I want to see the world. So we're in the world, but not of it, meaning we can handle it somehow. We realize we wouldn't be here if we weren't capable of contributing in this moment, right? Or of just being in this moment and learning and growing and connecting and understanding our interbeing with everything else, right? That largeness that we talked about. So again, to me, it's a koan, this word in the Japanese Zen tradition of just a question that just stays and stays and stays. It's not about solving it. It's about, chewing it, marinating it, just letting it work on you. So, I just would encourage you to keep that as a question, as a koan. All of us. What does this mean? How do I do that? In this moment, and then in this situation, and then in that situation. Right? Thank you. Yes, someone over here.
So my question is about thinking. I had the pleasure of listening to or being in a Dharma talk with Brother Phap Lu at Deer Park recently. Someone asked him, how can I think mindfully? Everyone says, to think less.
Yeah.
But I need to think to get my things done.
Yeah.
And the brother said, thinking's overrated, essentially. Like, we can rely on our intuition and our emotions. And there was deep wisdom there, and there was a part of me, the kind of like activist part of me that said like, okay, if no one's thinking about, you know, our strategy, when we're talking about like envisioning the world we want to see,
Thank you.
How do we do that?
This is what I wanted to talk about. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just share one of my early, when I first came to Plum Village, one of my first questions to Thai, we call Thich Nhat Hanh Thai, it means teacher in Vietnamese, was, you talk about being in the present moment, but what about planning? You have to plan. You have to think about the future to get things done. How do you plan? And so he was, he answered questions in the talk. And so he said, well, you can plan mindfully. You can think about the future and be in the present moment. That's a way of thinking mindfully, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to plan my week, but could I have a cup of tea? Could I take some mindful breaths? Could I notice if anxiety starts to arise and come back and ground myself, feel my feet, feel my body? So you can engage with a lot of things that need to be done as you stay anchored in this moment. So that was an answer that's always stayed with me. But this bigger question you're raising about needing to do some analysis, right? I was just sharing with Kriti yesterday about going on a political education training for 6 days at the Aini Institute in Boston, and how it just rocked my world in the best way. We did 10,000 years of human history in 6 days. Actually, we went back to the very beginning of the earth. That was part of the first day too. But it was really like, no, we actually have to study how did this come to be? What are the different points in human history where we decided things that has led to this? And I'm really converted now that I think as spiritual practitioners, we all need deep political education. We need to understand the currents of history. And I don't think we study enough in, like history in our spiritual communities. And I mean, I'm a new convert, so I'm proselytizing. I haven't come to the place of integrating it. So I have fervor, but I think there's something to really doing the study of human history, of the political realm, so that we understand how our spiritual practice can enter and really be helpful. So I'm all for what you're naming. And Kriti and I are already talking about how to bring political education into our spiritual spaces. So other people are doing it too. Yeah, thank you. So I think we have 2 more minutes. A couple hands, okay.
I was reluctant to ask this question because I feel you've already spoken to it in a lot of ways, but a big tension for me here is between the energy of someone who takes that vow that says, if you beat me, I will not beat you back. And something I'll speak to by, pointing at the sacred no. The thing which is angry and wrathful, and I recognize that impulse ultimately as a loving one, a protective one. Like there's a real deep fervor that says like, excuse the language, but I'm going to speak with energy. If it's like, fuck no, you're not going to do that, and I will hurt you if you try. I don't know what the question is, but I think you can feel it. Like there's these two things feel in conflict, and I recognize the truth of how we, how much opens up when we soften and we breathe.
Yeah.
But where's the space for that wrath, which ultimately comes from love and protection?
Yes. Thank you.
Kaira Jewel, I'll add my question to this. I'll make it complicated for you. I think maybe it's speaking to what I was going to ask. What is the place of grieving and raging? Because we all experiencing these range of emotions, grief, rage, fear. Thinking of Joanna Macy's work. What is the to get to that place of equanimity and acceptance of the moment as it is, as cruel, stupid, whatever it is. What is the role of grieving and raging? Maybe you can comment on both.
Yes, thank you. So important, both of these, what you're both pointing to. In temples in Asia, there's often two bodhisattvas outside of the gate. One is a gentle bodhisattva, like we saw that beautiful, loving face. But then there's a fierce bodhisattva with big teeth and claws and angry face. And it's said that you need both at the gates of the temple because you need to welcome those, forces in that are supportive, but you need to protect those forces that are harmful. You need to prevent those forces that are harmful from entering, and so that wrath is very is sacred. It has a place. And when you were speaking, I was thinking of the line from the discourse on love, the Metta Sutta, where it's a mother. Even as a mother protects with her own life her only child, what would it mean to see that? Like, I see it as you're protecting something. You're putting your own body in the way to protect what you love. But your energy is going towards what you love, not against what's causing harm. Do you see the difference? So we're anchored in love, and that can still be full of wrath. The mother bear is like, you're not going to touch my baby, right? I'll do whatever it takes to protect my baby. But the intention is to protect, not to harm back, right? And so with the role of grief and rage, they are sacred. They are also essential, right? Like we would be unwell if we were not in grief and rage. That would be horrible if we weren't experiencing grief and rage. Then I would really be worried about our world. Like, grief and rage are healthy signs of a feedback loop saying, I'm still alive, right? And so making real space for that as you do so well. Grief circles where people can, honor these emotions in a container that's really healing. Because that's where the alchemy of the practice comes in, because on their own, if we don't have ritual, if we don't have community, if we don't have the dance and the music and that we saw in Sinners, right? Those things help us to really work those things through our bodies, through our nervous systems. I mean, the word emotion, it comes from the Latin emovere, which means to move out. To move out. Our emotions want to arise and move out of us. So we don't want to suppress them. We don't want to deny them. That will keep them stuck in us. We want to let them be, but held in a way where they can be skillfully accompanied, right? Midwifed, so they can. So we can receive the full message that they're here to give, because they all have incredibly important wisdom to teach us. They are teachers. We don't want to not listen to our teachers. And then that's what allows them to release, so that we are in relationship to them and free with them. Just like all the things we talked about with fear, it's the same with grief, it's the same with rage. How do we dance with them? But we need community, we need the natural world, we need our ancestors, we need inspiration and joy and, good food and good water and, air. We need all the things that can help us to be a real vessel of this alchemy, so that the very natural feelings of rage, of grief can arise, can be witnessed, can be honored and transformed. Yeah, so they're absolutely essential. Thank you. Thank you all so, so much. Mm-hmm.